Today we will be covering at least 3 myths that is often prevalent in a country like India when it comes to pediatric feeding young children. The first one is starve the child and he will eat. This is a popular myth. I hear parents saying that I give the food and I say that he has to eat it. If he doesn't eat that, he doesn't get any other food. So ultimately, my child will have to eat that food. We can't prepare different types of food for different people in the home, and they just have to eat what we eat. And that includes spicy food, that includes texture food, and food that probably the child cannot tolerate because of the way it smells or the way it looks like. Right now, we've had several children who have brought to our clinic with a complaint of asked to starve, and eventually the child will eat. But these children are experiencing an underlying tactile hypersensitivity, which makes it very hard for the kids to bite, chew, or propel the food behind to swallow safely. The major concern for these kids is what seems safe, what seems delicious to us, it appears painful, appears creepy and gooey, and they wouldn't want to explore that food. So saying that don't eat, many of our children might just go without food for days together. And we've had kids like that who've gone without food for 6 days at a stretch. So what I'm encouraging you to understand through this video is that tactile hyper and hyposensitivities are real. Kids with a diagnosis of autism, Down syndrome, and other conditions who are scared of food because of the texture or the way it looks like are for real. And what seems pleasurable to you and I can be painful and anxiety provoking for a majority of our autistic children. Therefore, we don't starve the child. Instead, we understand the child's tactile sensory differences and provide supports by offering food that is safe for the child to eat. The second myth is eating is a simple 2-step process. Well, the fact is eating is not a 2-step process, and it is not simple for a lot of our kids. Eating can be complex, it can be complicated for some of our children who are experiencing a motor planning difficulty because they find it hard to munch the food or chew the food, have a rotary chew. They really don't understand how to bring the food to the middle of the tongue after pureeing it with your teeth after munching. They really cannot comprehend how to motor plan to push the food backward and swallow it safely. Okay, and these are the kids who thrive on purees. We also have kids who completely dislike certain food textures and refuse to consume them because for them, food is not just a 2-step process. They first must feel safe when the food is presented within their comfort zone, which means, for example, if the child is sitting at the dining table and a food is brought to the child should be able to tolerate that particular food on the dining table before they start eating the food or before they interact with the food. The second step involves the child is willing to interact with the food using a feeding tool such as a spoon or a ladle to serve. They can use a fork and a spoon to explore it even in their own plate. Thirdly, the child should be willing to touch and feel the food with their hands. The fourth one would be to be able to take the food near their mouth, be able to tolerate the smell of the food, the look of the food. The fifth stage would be to put the food in the mouth, be able to taste it, process the texture of it, and willing to keep it there. The sixth step would be to munch on the food, basically maneuver the food or manipulate the food within the mouth. And the last step would be to safely swallow the food after manipulating the food in the mouth. So based on what I've shared with you today, you understand that feeding is not a simple 2-step process like many of us perceive it to be. It is a complex process for some of our children who experience sensory differences. And we must not enforce children to eat and treat them from the perspective of normalizing the child and saying, no, you have to do, if I can do, why you can't. Our kids cannot because of the underlying sensory differences that they're experiencing. The third myth is every grain of rice is important. We cannot waste food. This is a common statement that we hear in many of our homes, right? I've heard parents say how they make their child eat at the table and sit there for 2 full hours. They complete the meal fully and only then they get out of the table. Well, this is not really okay, because while the child is sitting at the table, be it typically developing child or be it a child with a diagnosis of autism, sitting at the table for more than 20 minutes is not really essential. Because by the time 20 minutes is over, your stomach is signaling that you're full. And also, the typical time of feeding a meal is 20 minutes on an average. You can go up and down 2 minutes. So anything more than that is only going to add on to the child's frustration and make them feel overwhelmed and further cause them to dislike food altogether. So when a child is not able to complete the food, you can ask them to trash the leftover on the plate. Because when you're enforcing that they finish every single grain, you're putting a lot of anxiety in your child that you really cannot fathom. Encourage your child to trash the plate once they are not able to eat further. You will be amazed and surprised at the magic that will follow. Within a week, mostly, yes. Within a week, most of the children are able to complete the meal. They're able to take more food or go for a second serving even without asking them. Basically, what you have done here is, instead of letting the food control the child, you have let the child control the food. So I hope these 3 myth busting has helped you. 1 is starve the child and he will eat. 2, eating is a simple 2-step process. 3, every grain of rice is important and we don't trash food. I'm certain that busting these 3 myths have really helped you today, and you will start implementing in your sessions if you are a clinician watching this, and a parent at home if you are watching this. And if you would like to get more informative videos and content on feeding therapy and autism intervention, subscribe to my channel to get more updates. Thank you for being here.